This time we're going to be focusing on something that I think affects a lot of us, especially as we get into, the later months of the year. We're going to be talking about winter driving. And I have to admit, going through the research for this one, I realized there's a lot more to it than just, knowing the rules of the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're going to go beyond the basics here and really explore the why behind safe winter driving practices. Because being prepared isn't just about your vehicle, it's about you as a driver.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think, I often think about, is my car ready for winter?
Yeah.
But I don't always think about my own role in that equation.
Yeah, and you're not alone in that. A lot of the research that we looked at really emphasized this human element, pointing out that things like driver fatigue can be especially dangerous in winter. And it's not just about being sleepy, it's a much broader concept.
Okay, so when we're talking about driver fatigue, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, it's really anything that can affect your ability to drive safely. We're talking about things like stress, distractions, even boredom. And in winter, when conditions are already challenging, these factors can be amplified.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I know when I'm driving in snow or ice, I tend to get a little bit more on edge, and that probably affects, my focus and my reaction time.
Exactly. And even, the research suggests that even experienced drivers can benefit from a refresher on winter driving techniques. Because sometimes we get a little complacent thinking we've seen it all, and that's when mistakes happen.
So it's not just about, knowing how to handle a skid or, install tire chains. It's really about having the right mindset going into it.
Right. It's about recognizing that winter driving demands more from us, both physically and mentally. And that brings us to another key aspect of safe winter driving, planning your journey.
Yeah, well, I always check the weather before I head out,
Mhm.
especially if I'm going on like a longer drive.
Yeah. That's a great start. But planning goes beyond just knowing the forecast. You really want to understand your route, especially if you're driving in mountainous areas where, elevation changes can dramatically impact weather conditions.
Yeah, I've definitely been caught off guard by that before, thinking it's sunny and clear and then hit a mountain pass and all of a sudden you're in a blizzard. Not fun.
Yeah, not fun at all. And that's why knowing your route, including potential hazards like steep grades, sharp curves, that's essential.
So we're talking about anticipating what might lie ahead, not just reacting to what's right in front of us.
Precisely. And part of that anticipation involves adjusting your driving style for winter conditions.
Okay, so slowing down, increasing following distance, all the things you usually hear about.
Yeah, exactly. But it's important to understand why these adjustments are so crucial. When roads are slick, you need more time to react, you need more space to stop, and you really need your full attention on the task at hand.
Right, because even a small distraction can have big consequences when you're driving in winter. So no more texting and driving.
Definitely not. Every decision you make behind the wheel has the potential to impact your safety and the safety of others on the road.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned distractions there because, some of the research we looked at highlighted this kind of fascinating connection between our attitude and the risks we take when we're driving.
Oh, really? I'd be curious to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, it turns out if we're already feeling stressed or rushed, we're much more likely to make those kind of impulsive decisions behind the wheel,
Mm.
you know. And in winter, those split-second choices can have much more serious consequences.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I know I've been in situations where I was in a hurry and maybe took a chance that I normally wouldn't have, especially when the roads are slick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what's really fascinating is that, the research suggests that cultivating a calm and prepared mindset can actually make you a safer driver. It's not just about reacting to what's happening around you. It's about anticipating potential hazards and having a plan in place.
So almost like a mental rehearsal for those unexpected moments. Exactly. It's like visualizing yourself handling a skid, or navigating a tricky patch of black ice. By running through those scenarios in your mind beforehand, you're better equipped to react calmly and effectively when they actually happen.
I like that. It's like mental preparation meets muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of preparation, I know we wanted to talk about some of the practical tips for getting ready for winter driving, making sure our vehicles are ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Having a well-maintained vehicle is crucial for safe winter driving. And one of the things that surprised me in the research was the emphasis on keeping your fuel tank more than half full. I always thought that was just about avoiding running out of gas.
Yeah, me too. Never really thought about it beyond that.
But it turns out there's a couple of other reasons why it's important. First, keeping your tank full helps prevent condensation from building up inside, which can actually lead to fuel line freeze-ups.
Oh, wow. That makes sense. I never knew that.
Yeah, it's one of those things you don't think about until it happens to you, and then you're stranded on the side of the road in freezing temperatures.
Yeah, definitely not a situation you want to be in. So, full tank, check. Anything else we should be aware of when it comes to fuel?
Well, the research also mentioned that fuel tanks need to vent properly and that snow and ice can block those vents.
Really? I never even considered that.
It's another one of those hidden dangers of winter driving. And if you happen to be driving a diesel vehicle, you also need to be aware of fuel gelling in cold temperatures.
Fuel gelling, what's that?
Well, essentially, the cold can cause the diesel fuel to thicken and even solidify, which can clog up your fuel lines and filters.
So it's kind of like what happens to honey when it gets cold.
Yeah, it's similar, and it
Yeah.
can be just as frustrating, if not more so.
Okay, so we've got the fuel situation covered. What about other essential gear? I know a lot of people recommend having an emergency kit in your car during the winter.
Oh, absolutely. And a well-stocked emergency kit goes beyond just staying warm. It's about having the supplies you need to potentially survive for an extended period if you get stranded.
So we're talking, extra clothing, food, water, blankets, that sort of thing.
Exactly. But you also want to consider things like a flashlight, extra batteries, first aid kit, a whistle to signal for help, and even some basic tools like a shovel or a small ice scraper.
Wow, it's like a mini survival kit for your car.
It's all about being prepared for the unexpected. And speaking of unexpected situations, did you know there's a specific technique called three-point contact for getting in and out of your vehicle safely on ice?
3-point contact. Now I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's a simple but incredibly effective way to prevent falls, especially if you're carrying something heavy or wearing bulky winter clothes. Basically, you always maintain 3 points of contact with your vehicle, either 2 feet in one hand or 2 hands in one foot.
So never let go completely until you're safely on the ground.
Precisely. It might feel a little awkward at first, but it can really save you from a nasty fall.
Okay, that's a great tip. I'm definitely going to start practicing that one. What about other things we might need to know how to do in a winter driving emergency?
Well, the research also mentioned the importance of understanding how to install tire chains.
Ah, yes, tire chains. Those seem a little intimidating.
They can be, but they can also be a lifesaver if you're driving in areas with heavy snowfall. It's worth taking the time to learn how to install them properly before you actually need to use them.
Yeah, makes sense. I wouldn't want to be fumbling around with those things in a blizzard.
And finally, we can't talk about winter driving without talking about the most crucial element of all, your tires.
Or tires. So I get that they're important, but, what makes them so special when it comes to winter driving?
Well, think about it this way. Your tires are literally your only point of contact with the road, right?
Mm.
So they're what give you that control over your vehicle. They allow you to, stop safely, navigate turns without losing traction. And in winter, when those roads are slick with snow and ice, that grip becomes even more crucial.
Right. It's so easy to lose traction. So what are some of the key things we need to know about tires to stay safe during the winter months?
Well, first and foremost, you want to make sure you check your tread depth. Tires with worn down tread just won't provide the same level of grip, especially on snow and ice. It's like, imagine trying to walk on an icy sidewalk in shoes with worn out soles.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be slipping and sliding all over the place.
Yeah, that's a pretty vivid image.
Right. So good tread depth is essential. And then, remember we talked about tire pressure earlier?
Yeah.
Well, it's worth reiterating that point because as the temperature drops, so does your tire pressure. It can decrease by about 1 psi for every 5 degrees Celsius drop in temperature.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that significant.
Mhm.
So we really need to be checking our tire pressure pretty regularly
Yeah.
throughout the winter, not just at the beginning of the season.
Exactly. And if you live in an area with particularly harsh winters, you might even want to consider investing in a set of winter tires.
Winter tires. So are those different from, regular tires? What makes them special?
Yeah, they're definitely different. Winter tires are specifically designed for, you know, cold temperatures, snowy or icy conditions. They have a different tread pattern and they're made from a softer rubber compound that maintains its flexibility even when it's freezing out there. And that gives you just superior grip and handling in those, challenging conditions.
So it's kind of like having, specialized footwear for different terrains. Like you have your hiking boots for the mountains, your snowshoes for the deep snow, and your winter tires for those icy roads.
That's a great analogy. You wouldn't go hiking in flip-flops, would you?
Probably not, no.
So yeah, a good set of winter tires is like giving your car the proper footwear for the season.
I like that. Well, it sounds like we've covered a lot of ground today when it comes to winter driving, from the condition of our vehicles to our own, mental and emotional state.
Yeah, definitely a lot to think about.
It seems like it's really this holistic approach that involves, preparing yourself mentally and physically, ensuring your vehicle is, properly equipped, and having those essential tools and gear on hand.
It really is. And it all circles back to that idea we talked about earlier, anticipation versus reaction.
Right.
We can't control the weather, but we can control how we prepare for it and how we respond to those unexpected moments.
Well, really appreciate all the insights you've shared today. I feel a lot more informed and a lot more prepared to tackle those winter roads, safely and confidently.
That's great to hear. Hopefully your listeners are feeling the same way.
Yeah, definitely. So before we wrap up, I'd love to just get your final thoughts on this topic. If you had to boil down everything we've talked about into one key takeaway, what would it be? What's the most important thing you want our listeners to remember about winter driving?
That's a good question. I think it really boils down to awareness. Awareness of, your own limitations as a driver, awareness of the conditions around you, and awareness of the capabilities of your vehicle. If you can stay present, stay mindful behind the wheel, you're already well on your way to being a safer winter driver.
I love that. Awareness is key. Well, folks, there you have it. Our deep dive into the world of winter driving. We hope you found it informative and helpful.
And remember, safety should always be your top priority. Stay prepared, stay alert, and stay safe out there on those winter roads.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Knightsbridge AI Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe for more insightful deep dives into the world of AI and transportation. Until next time, drive safe.